As we all know, skills in Yu-Gi-Oh come in all shapes and sizes. Some skills are created incredible off-rip, requiring minimal investment to get the most out of them, while others, well, let's just say some are so bad that you feel sometimes better off not even using it. And this got me thinking, how would I go about fixing all the bad skills in SpeedDuels? Okay, so the goal is simple. I plan on going ahead and upgrading every single bad skill from each individual SpeedDuel box. However, there are going to be two stipulations when I do this. The first is that each of the upgraded skills has to still work somewhat similar to the original. This means that if a skill, as an example, were to modulate attack, I can't go ahead and just change it to go ahead and start fusion summoning. The second stipulation is going to be the fact that the changes that I have to make to these skills has to be somewhat realistic and tame. This means that I can't just go ahead and recreate my Purchase Queen 2.0, and instead aiming for more skills similar to that of Ancient Ruler Rises, a decent skill overall that makes a pretty much unplayable deck need some form of viability. Well, with that being said, if you find yourself enjoying this video at any point in time, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As a matter of fact, you should just subscribe right now, since I have a plethora of different videos discussing SpeedDuels like this. And if you think you're already subscribed, then do me a favor and double check. It's very much appreciated and it goes a long way in helping this small channel grow. But if you'd like to take your support a step further, then you can always become a channel member. For only 99 cents, this is going to give you rewards such as a badge next to your name, custom Topsy emojis, and a shout out at the end of the videos. But with all that being said, let's begin. Alright then guys, so for today's video, we're going to be beginning with the very first SpeedDuel box with the original Battle City box. And realistically speaking, I thought that I was going to go ahead and have to upgrade every single skill from this set. But surprisingly enough, there was a grand total of 6 of them that went untouched. Now, 3 of those skills were untouched because of the fact that I thought they were good enough on their own. Those being Endless Traps, No More Mrs. Nice Mai, and Union Combination. I'm sure that if you're familiar with the original Battle City box, then you'll probably understand why these skills were pretty much left alone. These might not be the most broken skills currently, but nevertheless, they have some utility in some niche. However, the other 3 skills that I decided not to go ahead and do anything with from this set were Fury of Thunder, Erratic Chant, and It's No Monster, It's a God. The reason I went ahead and decided I shouldn't do anything with these skills either is because they technically ended up getting upgraded already in the newest set, Battle City Finals. And for that very reason, I didn't just want to go ahead and rehash those skills once again. But if you guys want me to go ahead and do these skills, let me know in the comment section below. Alright then, so now that we're done talking about the skills that we went ahead and did nothing with, let's move on to the skills that we actually ended up modulating. I actually went ahead and separated the way I'm going to be laying this video out by cards that had no change, cards that had minimal change, and the cards that, well, I took my creative liberties with. So up next are the cards that had a minimal change done to them, just for the very fact that I thought they just needed a slight tweak in order to go ahead and be a bit more playable. Those skills include Digging for Gold, Fusion Party, Ritual Ceremony, I'm Just Gonna Attack, Low Blow, and Magician's Act. Now let's go ahead and hone in on what exactly the changes were for all 7 of these skills. For 5 of them, realistically speaking, all I really need to do was go ahead and change one little aspect about them. Change the fact that they were all once per duel skills. And I'm specifically referring to Digging for Gold, Fusion Party, I'm Just Gonna Attack, Low Blow, and Ritual Ceremony. All 5 of these skills were worded in a way where they could only be activated once per duel. And that seemed a bit too harsh, and this was something that I noticed from a lot of the older sets when going ahead and revising all these old SpeedDuel skills. Because these were some of the first skills introduced into the game, it made sense that Konami felt a lot more hesitant to give us very powerful skills that did too much. But realistically speaking, skills like the 5 that I mentioned already don't really need the once per duel skill restriction, and I feel like if you just go ahead and increase it to 1 more additional activation, it probably gives them some more utility compared to what they used to have before. But these were just very boring changes. Let's go ahead and focus in on the ones that I went ahead and altered a bit more, while still not doing a crazy amount. The next one I want to go ahead and focus on specifically is Magnetic Attraction. I'm not gonna lie, Magnetic Attraction is one of my personal favorite skills from the original Battle City box, and for that very reason, I went ahead and focused in on it a bit more. Realistically speaking, I didn't really need to do anything for the skill. It works perfectly fine the way that it is. But there was one slight thing that I wanted to go ahead and change. and it has to do with the secondary effect of this skill. So the original skill reads, apply the following skills, and it has two separate skills attached to it. When a level 4 lower magnet monster is normal summoned, you can add a level 4 lower magnet monster from your deck with a different name to your hand. While the second skill reads, you can reveal 2 level 4 lower magnet monsters in your hand with different names, and if you do, add a Valkyrion from your deck to your hand. Each of these skills can only be activated once per duel. Now, as said, this skill works perfectly fine the way that it is, but there was one change that I ended up making, and here it is. The big change that I ended up making with this skill has to do with the secondary effect. Originally, this was a once per duel activation that added you the Valkyrion from your deck. But this time around, I went ahead and decided one of the biggest issues with the Magnet deck is that once Valkyrion gets dealt with, well, you're kinda cooked. So I went ahead and changed that. I went ahead and altered this skill so it can be activated twice per duel this time around, but additionally, it gives you the option of recovering the Valkyrion from either the deck or the graveyard to your hand. Since I figured that because the deck already has access to Valkyrion via the activation of one of your best Magnet monsters, realistically speaking, having the skill only do that feels a little bit redundant. Still having the flexibility of being able to get the Valkyrion from the graveyard as well seemed very worthwhile. But as I said already, realistically speaking, I didn't really have to change anything about the skill. It worked alone as it was already. But I can't really say the same thing about the other skill that we ended up working on, that being Magician's Act. This skill reads like an old skill because the way that it's phrased is the following. It reads, activate one of the following skills at the start of the duel, and it gives you 2 separate effects. Add a Dark Magician monster from your deck to your hand, then you shuffle another card into the deck. Or the second effect where you can shuffle a Dark Magician from your hand into the deck and draw 1 card. But not only that, you also do have the added effect where you can tribute a Dark Magician on your field to draw 2 cards. And yeah, it's really phrased in an odd and awkward way. The way it's programmed in Omega forces you to activate these effects immediately, so it makes it feel a bit cumbersome to use this skill. So I went ahead and altered it, make it a bit more modern. And this is the newly improved version of Magician's Act. Now this skill reads, once per turn, during your main phase, you can activate one of these following skills, and then it's separated into 3 separate skills. Skill number 1, you can reveal a Dark Magician in your hand and place it at the bottom of the deck, then draw 1 card, taking inspiration from the Battle City Final skills. Skill number 2, once per duel, add a Dark Magician from your deck to your hand, then shuffle 1 card from your hand into the deck. And finally, skill number 3, once per duel, you can tribute a Dark Magician to draw 2 cards. And like that, we went ahead and fixed it where everything is a lot more neat and tidy, and all these effects don't try and activate immediately at the beginning of the duel. And I feel like this just makes it feel a lot better. It gives you a lot more options off rip. And that's pretty much all I ended up doing with all 7 of these skills. But now that we're done with these skills that went ahead and needed the least amount of changes to them, let's move on to the skills that needed a lot more love. So as I said, the last 7 skills were fairly simple changes. However, the last 7 skills of this video, well, there was quite a bit that I needed to do in order to go ahead and salvage them. Some were still fairly simple to fix, while others, goodness, they needed quite a bit to do. So let's go and talk about them individually. Alright then, so first character up in this section is Yugi's Beast of Phantom. And unfortunately, Beast of Phantom is a skill that doesn't do enough for the deck that it's dedicated to. Beast of Phantom is supposed to be a fusion based skill that tries to help the Phantom Beast deck make its boss monster in Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast. Unfortunately, this skill is very outdated and does a piss poor job of actually committing to the job that it needs to accomplish. This skill reads, during your main phase, you can discard a card to fusion summon a Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast from your extra deck using monsters from your hand field as material. It continues though. During your end phase, if the Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast was fusion summoned this turn, you can add a Phantom Beast monster from your graveyard to your hand. Each of these skills can only be activated once per turn. As you can see, this is a very outdated skill that doesn't really do all that much for your deck, and there's really not much synergy. So let's try and fix it. Alright then, and this is the newly improved version of Beast of Phantom. I went ahead and took inspiration from the Slimy Disposition skill to try and hit and modernize this skill. And the new skill reads now, once per turn, you can add 1 Phantom Beast or Performant monster from your graveyard to your hand. Once per turn, you can discard 1 card, then fusion summon 1 Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast using either Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beast, or Bergamot from your field or hand as one of the materials, and the other from your deck. Now, this seems a bit crazy for the very fact that we haven't had any skill thus far allow you to use a material from your hand and then the other from your deck without already having a monster on your field. And the reason that I ended up phrasing it like this is for a few reasons. The first, the Chimera that you're going to be making is an awful boss monster. It hardly accomplished anything on its own. Additionally, the materials needed to make this monster are abysmal. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is the fact that the Phantom Beast deck is primarily Beast Warrior, which is good because it can be searched off tanky. But unfortunately, the Gazelle and the Bergamot are both Beast and Fiends, so they have zero synergy with the deck. But I thought to myself that at least with this new change, we can go ahead and make the process of being able to go ahead and summon out this monster a bit less tedious. And I figured that if we give them a slightly more broken version of the fusion based ability, it would do wonders for the strategy. But give me your thoughts. Next character up we have is Taya with Power of Friendship. Now, Power of Friendship is a really weird skill that you can definitely see where Battle City Bestie got its inspiration from. This skill reads, you take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects during your turn, which is very funny because Battle City Besties has a similar effect that states you take no battle damage on your turn, which is a really interesting dichotomy. But Battle City Besties is a way better skill because it has a different effect attached to it as well. So let's see what we can do with this skill. So I figured to myself, what could we do to go ahead and upgrade it? And this is what I came up with. The new version of Power of Friendship reads as follows now. Apply the following skills. You take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects during your turn, but additionally, you take no battle damage during your turn either. This way, we went ahead and used this as the ultimate off-meta weird pick for just niche situations. I figured that if we just went ahead and tied the both abilities of just not taking damage from your opponent from either battle or card effects on your own turn, it would give Power of Friendship some weird niche ability to go ahead and counter really annoying strategies like burn. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination would this skill be broken, but it would definitely go ahead and allow you to do some very interesting stuff in SpeedDuel. Alright then, so moving off of Taya, we now have Ishizu's Rise of the Fallen. Realistically speaking, I don't think this skill needed all that much work to be done. For the most part, Rise of the Fallen is just a fairly underwhelming skill. It's just kind of there. This skill reads, activate the skill during your main phase. Special summon one level 4 lower fairy monster from your graveyard in defense mode and gain life points equal to its original attack. This skill can only be used once per duel. Honestly, a fairly standard effect that is cool. I mean, it's not breaking any metas, but it's a cool little effect overall. So let's take a look at what it ended up doing to fix it. So my idea with this effect was I kind of wanted to go ahead and mimic the new line of effects that we have in Speed, where we're allowed to special summon monsters from our hand, but tie it with the gimmick of Ishizu. And the new version of Rise of Fallen reads as follows. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can special summon one level 4 lower earth fairy monster from your graveyard. You gain life points equal to its original attack, but there's a bit more. The monster summoned by this skill cannot be attributed except for the tribute summon of a fairy monster. This was my own little way of going ahead and balancing the skill by preventing it from being used in any random monarch deck strategies that wanted to go ahead and abuse the fact that you can get a free monster fairly effectively every single turn. And I kind of like this ability. This way the Ishizu deck ties itself to the Ishizu cards and can't just be splashed into any random strategy that tries to go ahead and utilize the free special summon. Additionally, I don't think being able to gain life points via the summon of specifically an earth fairy monster is going to be all that oppressive. For the most part, it'll be annoying, but I think it'd probably be okay. But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on this one. Alright then, so now that we're done with the Ishizu, let's move on to Odeon. And Odeon's skill's name is Guardian of the Tomb. Again, another skill that I often forget exists, and I think it's kind of a neat one. It's just very unfortunate that no one really tries to utilize this skill because there's a lot of better skills that do much more than what this skill does. And this skill reads, during your opponent's main phase, when a monster is special summoned from the spell and trap card zone to your field, while you have no cards in your hand, you can draw one card. And if you do, you can set one spell or trap card from your hand. This skill can only be used once per turn. I think overall this skill is really cool, but unfortunately there are far too many restrictions in order to make this skill actually viable. The fact that your hand has to be empty when you activate this effect, the fact that in order to trigger this effect you need to special summon a monster from your spell and trap card zone, it's just, I don't think this is really viable in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I went ahead and tinkered it a bit. The new version of the skill reads as follows. Once per turn, when a monster is special summoned from the spell and trap card zone to your field, while you control no other monster, you can draw one card. And if you do, you can set one spell and trap card from your hand. I feel like this version of the skill is a lot more fair and goes ahead and plays into the idea of the trap monster deck, where you primarily want to go ahead and focus in on your trap monster, specifically being able to beat down on your opponent and then go ahead and strategically special summon into their field to go ahead and get that draw engine going. I feel like for the most part this could work out fairly well, and it's pretty difficult to go ahead and abuse this as an engine if you wanted to go and draw a lot, because you are restricted to having only one monster on your field. Do I think this is going to make this skill like a top tier for like trap based strategies? Probably not. There's still a lot of better skills for that, but I feel like at least it would give someone the idea of like, maybe I could tinker around with this. But give me your thoughts. Alright then, so we only have 3 characters left for this video, and the next one up is Loomis and Umbra with Spell of Mask. Oh boy. I'm fairly familiar with the way this deck plays, and I can say that it is unfortunately an old skill and doesn't work as well as you would hope. So this skill reads, activate the following skills. If a ritual summon the Masked Beast you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a Masked Beast Descardius from your hand, deck, or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. It's a pretty good effect. Effect number 2, you contribute 1 Masked Beast Descardius, then add 1 the Masked Beast and 1 Curse of Masked Beast from your deck and or graveyard to your hand. Each of these skills can only be used once per duel. Now, I like the idea that they had with this skill. The only issue is the fact that, well, you're playing a ritual based deck, so those decks are just prone to just not being very good. Additionally, the fact that you have to have the Masked Beast Descardius on the field already in order to activate the effect to go ahead and tribute it away to get back your ritual materials feels a bit counterintuitive, for the very fact that you're kind of back to square one, because you have to find another way to go ahead and get enough materials for the ritual summon once you get rid of your big boss monster. So I feel like that effect just felt really awkward, and this is how I fixed it. Alright then, so here's the newly improved version of the Loomis and Umbra skill. It now reads, once per turn, during your main phase, you can activate one of the following skills. Fact number 1, you can discard 1 card, then add 1 the Masked Beast or Curse of the Masked Beast from your deck to your hand. Pretty much every ritual based deck gets one of these skills in the newer sets. The second effect is going to be the same standard effect, but the last effect is where I went ahead and took some creative liberties. It reads, once per duel, if you control a face up Masked Beast Descardius, you can add 1 the Masked Beast and 1 Curse of Masked Beast from your deck and or graveyard to your hand. Now you're given the option that while you control your alternative boss monster, you can search out for the ritual spell and the ritual monster. That way it gives you the choice whether or not you want to use the Descardius or the ritual summon. And I don't think that's a broken effect by any stretch of the imagination, and I still don't think this deck would be seeing much play, but realistically speaking, you can play this deck and it will be a lot more consistent, a bit more playable as a whole, and that's the whole goal. Oh boy. Okay, so we're now onto the last 2 characters, and what a surprise, it's Esparoba Weiss. Okay, so if you know me, you know I have generational beef with this guy and his skills and his decks and just everything about Esparoba. And fixing these skills is always a challenge just because his deck is garbage, so I tried to go ahead and still follow through with what the skill originally was trying to accomplish, and this is what I came up with. So, the original skill reads, gentle monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's skill cards. Very weird interaction, but okay. Once per turn, during your main phase, if you control a Jinzo, you can look at 1 face down card your opponent's spell and trap card zone, and if it's a trap card, draw 1 card. And that's it. A fairly aim effect that gives you a little bit of hand consistency, and a very weird niche protection effect for Jinzo. Okay, we can work with this. And here is my newly improved version of It's Jinzo. My new version of the skill reads, all Jinzo monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's skill cards. This is going to include the whole Jinzo family now. Once per turn, during your main phase, if you control a Jinzo monster, you can look at 1 face down card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone, and if it's a trap card, destroy it and draw 1 card. Now we went ahead and gave an extra benefit to actually controlling a Jinzo card. All the Jinzo monsters are not great with the exception of actual Jinzo. I like the way this skill ended up coming out, but give me your thoughts. Okay. So we now have the last skill for this video, and oh boy, if you guys haven't seen, I made a video talking about the worst skills in SpeedDuels, and this skill, it was up there. It's one of the worst ones that we've ever gotten in SpeedDuels, and you'll see why. This skill reads, activate one of these skills during your main phase by paying half your life points. These gotta be good, right? We'll see about that. Skill number 1, target a set card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone and declare one type. Monster, spell, or trap, then reveal the face down card. And if it's the declared type, it can't be activated this turn. Okay, second effect, randomly select one card in your opponent's hand and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Then reveal that card, and if it's the declared type, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Each of these skills can only be used once per duel. Oh my goodness. Keep in mind, you can only activate each of these skills once per duel, and at that, each of these skills requires you to pay half your life points to activate. Oh, your opponent isn't able to activate one set card if you call it correctly for an entire turn, and oh, I can burn my opponent for 500 damage if I call it correctly at the cost of half my life points. So how do we salvage this absolute dog shit skill that does absolutely nothing for you as a player while still staying true to what this skill originally was trying to do? Well, this is what I ended up coming up with. The newly improved skill now reads, once per turn, you can activate one of these skills by paying half your life points, but each of these skills can only be activated once per duel. Now, we're still keeping the once per duel effect on each of these skills, and additionally, we're still keeping the paying half your life points, but I tried making it feel a lot more worthwhile. Skill number 1, you can target one set card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Destroy that target, and if it's the declared type, your opponent sends all cards from their main deck with that card's name to their graveyard. The inspiration for this skill was the Nobleman cards. Nobleman of Extermination is a normal spell card currently in SpeedDuel that has a very similar effect, where if it destroys a set card that happens to be a trap card, it destroys all copies from both players' main decks. And this skill is pretty much trying to go ahead and mimic that same effect. Okay, moving on to the second effect. Randomly select one card in your opponent's hand and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Banish that target, and if it's the declared type, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. I feel like this version of the skill actually makes sense that you're having to actively pay half your life points to activate each of these effects. I can definitely see this skill actually being played in some random strategies that are just looking for a very surefire way of dealing with your opponent's back row, or also trying to get some level of hand control. For the most part, I like the way this skill ended up coming out, but in the comments below, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Or if you guys can help me out with wording the skill in a better way where it makes a lot more sense, I'd really appreciate that as well. And with that, this concludes today's video. In the comments below, give me your thoughts on today's skills that we ended up changing and what changes you would personally make. I always appreciate the feedback you guys give me, and any feedback as to whether the skills were too good, not good enough, will go ahead and help me out with future videos in this series. But anyway, if you guys would like to show your support for the channel, then please go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. But if you want to take your support a step further, then you can always become a channel member for only 99 cents to get badges next to your name, custom Topsy emojis, and a shout out at the end of the video. On that note, huge shout out to our current 2 channel members, those being Bushx to start, and of course, Truck as well. Huge shout out to you guys, and I really appreciate the support you guys keep showing me. With all that being said, thank you all for watching to the end, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye guys.